Today on Caravan of Garbage, I just want to emphasize up top that we are looking at something that I consider great, one of the best Star Wars things ever made, ever created.
Can I emphasize?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
For a number of reasons. I'm happy to get into it.
Please.
For those who don't know, we're looking at Star Wars Clone Wars. Not The Clone Wars, which was a movie then television series, which is still continuing to this day. They brought it back. This was the first look at George Lucas's much fabled and little known about The Clone Wars.
Okay, yes.
Was we haven't really seen it in live action movies.
Well, it was first referenced in Star Wars 1.
Yes, that's
A
right.
New Hope.
Yeah.
You fought in the Clone Wars? Yes.
Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "Oh, I know him from the Clone Wars," and for years we're all like, "What? It's still Clone Wars?
What's that
Sounds
about?"
bloody fascinating.
It wasn't allowed to be touched in Legends, really. It was kind
Right.
of loosely referenced, like some clone Jedis turn up in some...
Is there any reason for that? It's because it was Lucas was like, "I've got a story for this."
He's
and
got
I've
a
got to tell
story
it.
for it.
Right.
But the thing is, he didn't create this narrative. He handed this over to Tartakovsky, famous animator. He'd done Samurai Jack, which is probably the thing this most closely resembles.
War and Peace, he did.
He also did War and Peace, yes.
I'm thinking of Dostoevsky.
No, they're both the same.
Okay, good.
This has a very distinct look that we hadn't really seen in any kind of Star Wars medium before. It's kind of...
That was Leo Tolstoy.
I don't care.
War and Peace. Okay.
I don't care, Mason.
All right.
We're not talking about War and Peace. All
We'll
right?
be talking about War and Peace.
One day we'll do War and Peace. But yeah, George Lucas was interested in this kind of different anime-esque look. But he's like, I don't really want to write the stories. You can take care of the stories.
Okay.
So can you just fill in this gap
Oh my
between
god,
movies?
that is a Hollywood bigwig move. I want to touch on this with this animation. Can you do everything else? But that's what I want to do.
It was actually originally supposed to be commercials to boost Star Wars toy lines. That's
I
why
can absolutely say that.
they were supposed to be like a minute each, but they ended up doing 2 initial seasons, what we're looking at today,
They
volume
just
1.
blew it out to 3 minutes apiece.
3 minutes apiece. The first volume is about an hour in length. Now, at the time, they kind of released them weekly and then bulk released them, on DVD.
Right, uh-huh.
But you said, because you'd never watched them before, or at least in a row, you found it a bit unrelenting to watch them.
It's unrelenting, just like fast-paced, fast twitch action.
Yeah.
Like it feels very much like Star Wars as seen through like a video game generation.
Sure. It's no longer canon.
Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment.
I don't
just to
care,
be- just to be
Mason. No
clear.
one cares.
All right.
No one cares in the world.
It's a thing and a thing. I'm just saying that's
So yeah, I think when I watched it at the time, it definitely plays easier if you kind of break it up and you do like 3 minutes here, three minutes there, and these self-contained stories.
But see, I had no idea that was the case. And so I'm
Right.
just like plowing through and I'm like, there's a lot of really fast-paced lightsaber battles where it's one dude versus like 50 robots. And then he swipes at all the robots and all their legs come off. And then he like force pushes them.
Yeah.
And then more robots show up. And he's like, better kill all these robots too. And then he,
You're talking about the Mace Windu,
I'm talking about the whole thing.
the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Did you have any standout sections or characters?
The one that popped, I think, was Obi-Wan Kenobi versus like some sort of weird
Oh,
slug man in a
Dirge.
suit of armor.
Yeah, I love that one.
Uh-huh.
So that's the first introduction of a couple of things. First of all, Obi-Wan Kenobi in the clone trooper outfit.
Yes,
I love that. I love that look. It's been adopted numerous times since, but it's
got some great flowing hair in
it's
this-
so
in
good.
this series.
This is episode 2 hair. If we move to volume 2, they change it up. He cuts the mullet.
Of all the terrible actions and errors made during the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi cutting his mullet off is probably number one.
I agree. I mean, he had to for the desert anyway. You can't keep that in the desert. It's outlandish. It's outrageous. You get sand caught in it. It's hot.
Yeah.
I guess it keeps the sun off your neck.
I hate sand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you.
I
I
hate
know you hate
sand.
sand, yeah.
It's rough and it gets in my mullet.
That Dirge character, though, he's not canon for the moment. But
Okay.
when he was introduced, the idea was that he was tortured by Mandalorians for like hundreds of years and imprisoned. And because he kind of is this immortal, regenerating being, he just keeps coming back. And so he's got
Okay.
this hatred for Mandalorians because the clone troopers are...
Mandalorian DNA,
Well, they're
right.
technically not anymore. It's been changed. I'm not going to get into it.
I'm sorry, what? Let's
But
talk about that
no,
afterwards.
At the time this came out, I think
Give me
they
a
must
hint
have
as to
been-
why are they not?
Jango Fett's not a real Mandalorian,
Oh, of
essentially.
course, okay, right,
Yeah.
right.
I want you to take a look at something. This is my father, Jango Fett.
Your father was a foundling.
Yes. He even fought in the Mandalorian civil wars.
Then that armor belongs to you.
So Dirge,
Yeah.
he's on a fool's errand.
He's on a bloody fool's errand,
Wow.
mate.
But he feels like a bit of an idiot.
He's on a big old tear though to kind of
Much like Dostoevsky's The Idiot,
nobody cares, Mason.
1869.
Okay. What I love about this guy is though he just keeps coming back. Like he gets impaled at one point, gets cut in half, his arm comes off.
Yep.
I like that he's got the different weapons. He's drawing blasters and he gets them cut. And then he's got the shields on his arms.
They're pretty sick.
And I love the bit where he turns up at the very end and he just gets gunned to pieces. He explodes.
room secure, General.
And then he comes back as a weird spaghetti monster.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Swallows Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Did he build that armor, or did somebody build it for him?
I have no
Because he's a
idea.
spaghetti monster.
He's a spaghetti monster. I mean, you don't want people to know you're a spaghetti monster. If I was a spaghetti monster, I would hide that. I love the little beats in this because the pauses, it is unrelenting, but there are moments
brief moments to catch
of like
your breath.
levity and, yeah, exactly, to catch your breath. There's a bit where he swallows Obi-Wan Kenobi, the clone trooper pauses and shoots him with like a little electricity
Yeah, and then he explodes.
thing, yeah, which I quite like.
How do you feel about the voice actors? Nobody's back, right?
Some I like more than others. The only one who's back is Anthony Daniels because he will do anything.
Yeah.
This is mostly, at the time, the video game cast. Some of these went on to continue in other things. The voice of Obi-Wan in this goes on to be him in the Clone Wars, the next Clone Wars series.
Oh, okay.
But the one
Clone Wars, Degrassi, the Next Generation.
correct.
Yeah.
But the one who does Hayden Christensen, Anakin, he's gone. He doesn't do it anymore.
I feel like they tested the voices talking but not yelling.
Oh, okay.
Because they seem fairly accurate
Yeah.
when they're just like, hello, Anakin. Hello there.
the sand in my mullet.
Yes, exactly. But when it's time for screaming, it's just like...
Well, I think they definitely improved.
Okay,
and a
right.
lot of these guys are still working, doing Star Wars voices. If not the same characters, they're still in the universe doing other things. What did you think about Mace Windu barehanded beats up an army of droids?
I don't know. See, here's the thing, because I don't know what of it was meant to be drama or melodrama and what was meant to be comic relief. Was Mace Windu the B-plot comic relief? Because at one point he's like speed bagging these robots barehanded.
I think the idea is it's a bit of levity, it's a bit of a laugh, but you kind of get a bit of him that you don't see in the movie. Because Sam Jackson, when he made these movies, he would have been 50, 55, if not more. And you see that fight that he has with Emperor Palpatine. It's quite slow, and one of them's clearly got a CGI head. But this, you can kind of show like an exaggerated version of the Force.
I guess, but I feel like that's the same as Yoda during, is it episode 2 when he fights Count Dooku?
Yeah, sure.
And it feels, I feel that's the point of the Jedi. They don't have to stay spry and unstoppable their entire lives.
Right.
They can sort of, they lose their fighting abilities but gain something in wisdom.
Yeah.
They don't have to be bouncing around like a little rubber ball,
There's a side story of this is Asajj Ventress, who the design of which was going to be the original new apprentice for Palpatine in episode 2. Oh. So that's an unused concept.
But then it became Dooku.
Then it became Dooku.
Why though, I wonder?
I guess we got Christopher Lee. I don't know that for a fact, but
Christopher Lee wandered into our production offices one day.
And we went, oh yeah?
Oh, he'll do.
That's
All
fine.
right.
But she's a character that's gone on to be made canon since. There's a few appearances of characters for the first time that survived this series to go on.
So the events of this are not canon?
No, though you could technically fit them in because, at the moment at least, because the first volume starts just after episode 2 and the second volume goes up to right when Revenge of the Sith starts. And that era has not been covered exactly just yet.
So
but it
New
will be
Clone
soon.
Wars, when is that set?
Kind of in between everything else.
Okay.
But again, this isn't considered canon regardless. Here's some other Jedi that we see a lot more of. Kit Fisto, underwater squid Jedi, master of the sploosh.
One of the great Jedis, if in name only.
Yes, that's right.
I think.
Do you know what ends up happening to him?
Is it some sort of underwater autoerotic asphyxiation?
No. He goes to arrest Senator Palpatine.
Another one.
He gets stabbed immediately. He's in that set of Jedi that turned up to be like, you're under arrest, babe.
Oh yeah.
I am the Senate.
And
that guy's a machine in this.
Yes.
He's all shirtless and running around and shooting big force underwater bubbles at people.
Yeah, he's the Aquaman of Jedi.
Yeah.
He's controlling big old fish eels and stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's an undignified way to go.
Actually,
that's kind of why I don't like... Was this made in between episodes 2 and 3?
Yes, this one was,
okay,
yeah.
Right.
I like that, though, because that's his element, this guy.
Yeah, I see,
he's
right.
not great on land in a big, heavy robe.
Yeah,
But
right.
you get him shirtless in the water, he's loving it, mate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe stick to the surf, buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
That's your option there.
Here's a fact about him, though.
I'm ready.
He invented the bifurcation silical ignition pulse device, which
Is that a
basically
two-way
means-
lightsaber?
No, that basically means you can use your lightsaber underwater. And a lot of that's now canon, and a lot of other Jedi can now use that.
So he's also a nerd.
Yeah, he's also a nerd.
Wow.
But another one that gets a lot of play is Master Luminara and her apprentice. They're the ones who get stuck in the cave.
Yeah,
These are just interesting facts that I read into. I hope you
Well,
don't
that's
mind.
good because that's all I want out of this is interesting facts.
After her death, rumors began to spread that she'd survived the Clone Wars and was still alive, with those rumors existing as late as 14 years after the war ended. And this is actually canon, but in reality, the Empire used her remains to lure Jedi survivors into traps so they could be killed.
Like as a sort of marionette situation.
Yeah, to be like,
You!
from a distance.
I've got some Jedi secrets!
So I like that. It's kind of grim and dark, but
Yeah.
interesting. You know what else I like about this?
What's that?
We get competent clone troopers. There's one section of them infiltrating a city.
Yes.
And they've all got their tactics and abilities and they're coming down on wires and shit.
Yeah, you've got red guy. You've got two blue guys. You've got generic guys. Here's what I'm going with this. Couldn't relate to them. They don't have any
Well,
personalities.
I don't think that was the point. I think the point is that's something they definitely do flesh out in the Clone Wars.
Oh, I see, right, okay.
But I like the idea of instead of guys that just can't hit the broadside of a bloody Death Star,
Yeah,
mate.
right,
They're tactical and purposeful and they know what they're doing.
And some of them have two guns.
Some of them have two guns.
Pew, 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 pew,
That's
pew.
exactly it. I don't love the Anakin stuff in this, and I think it might be the voices. I find the voice a bit
And
off.
the constant surly expression.
Yes, the scowl.
Yeah.
But you do get something that you don't really see that much of in the movies, and that is Anakin being a good pilot. Like, you see him doing some pretty spectacular stunts and whatnot.
Sure.
Not just, like, accidentally blowing up a big donut.
Okay, but if I may,
Yes.
they've just drawn that. I'd compliment the skill of the animators more than Anakin Skywalker, a fictional man.
Okay, sure.
You know?
No, I can understand
Okay,
that.
alright.
Yeah. Another thing it does have is the first introduction of one of your favourite characters, General Grievous.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Dexter Jetster, but whatever.
Well, he's 4 arms. It's still a 4-armed
Yeah.
character. You'll take it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
They're brothers. The brothers Karamazov, 1880.
Boo, Mason! Boo! Also, in that moment where Grievous is kind of stalking these Jedi characters, including that dude with the cone head.
Yes.
The Dan Aykroyd one. We get the first introduction, and this guy's had a bit of a resurgence lately, of Shah Agi. It's basically Shaggy, the Jedi. He just looks like Shaggy, and he's scared, and he has a lightsaber.
Yeah, right.
He gets stomped by Grievous. Here's something I never understood about Grievous.
Yes.
He doesn't have the Force.
Yes? What do you mean?
Just crush him.
Oh, like a tin can?
Yeah, it actually happens in volume 2 of this. Mace Windu, that's why he's got the breath thing, because Mace
Yeah,
Windu
yeah.
just crushes his chest.
Yeah.
But in any situation here, any of these Jedi, no matter what skill level you're at, you can
Yes.
just pull his head off.
It's very
I don't
true.
understand it.
He's just
Yeah.
a droid.
Yeah.
Is there any canon material in which is there any force-proof metal or anything like
I
that?
don't believe so. He's just been trained by Dooku.
Well, then this is pretty dumb, isn't it?
Well, he's just always been this kind of unrelenting, tactical monster, and that's what's got him through.
Yeah, right.
But he's still...
Yeah, I mean, the trick would be jump away from him,
Yeah.
crush his head.
Crush his head, that's
Yeah,
right. Also, there is Shak Ti. This is a character that's had her death depicted in Star Wars media 5 separate times.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Is she the Kenny of the Star Wars universe?
It seems to be that way. I'll go through it. Basically, to start with, in Revenge of the Sith, there's a deleted scene where, remember when they storm aboard General Grievous's ship?
Yes.
There's a moment where they confront Grievous and he's got Shak Ti in front of him and he just puts a lightsaber through her.
Oh, wow.
Right,
okay,
so that's
yep.
number 1.
Yeah, I remember that one.
She's also killed in a Force vision that Yoda sees in the Clone Wars.
In this Clone Wars?
No, in the next
The
Clone
next
Wars.
Clone Wars, okay, right,
Anakin, when he storms the Jedi Temple and kills all the Jedi. Another deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith. She's also murdered. He
So
sneaks...
they just murdered her twice?
Yes.
And we're like, which should we use, one or both? And they went with neither in the end.
That's right. In The Force Unleashed, the first video game, you
Yep.
take the lead character to a weird mud world and you have a boss battle with her and she falls into a tentacle pit or something and explodes.
Great.
And the last one is she's beheaded in one of the Lego Star Wars games. So 5 separate depictions of her death.
So she's killed in a game where, generally speaking, no one ever dies.
That's right, exactly.
Wow, they've really
yeah.
gone to extreme. So here's the question then. Canonically, she's still alive, though.
No. Yeah, the vision that Yoda had in the Clone Wars was what ended up happening to her.
Oh, I see. Right,
Yeah.
okay.
The thing is, I like this more than the Clone Wars animated series, the 3D one. Not
Yeah,
that I've
right.
seen all of that. I know that's a beloved series. But I think the reason they kind of cancelled this was this seems a lot more difficult to animate than you can design a character model and then use that for
Forever,
X
yeah.
number of seasons.
Exactly. You got to freshly draw
Yeah.
that Anakin scowl
Yes,
in every
exactly.
scene, don't you? You got to individually hand draw those weird tentacles from Spaghetti Man.
That's right. I mean, obviously you can also reuse 2D animation.
Yeah.
But the rate that they'd be able to pump out the 3D stuff, I'd imagine, would be a lot easier, especially with more modern technology.
Yeah, for
So it's
sure.
kind of a shame that this is no longer canon, but I really enjoy this fun little jaunt down memory lane of Legends, the Clone Wars, Mason. Or just Clone Wars. All right? It's not the Clone Wars. Don't make that mistake, all right?
Is the other one the Clone Wars?
The other one's the Clone Wars.
Okay,
That's right, yeah.
If they reboot it again, Clone Wars.
A Clone Wars.
A Clone Wars.
A Clone Wars story. But you're kind of not really interested to check out Volume 2? Because we'll probably cover that at some point, and I'll make you.
Yeah, you will. So I guess I'll have to. I can tell you what. Yeah, I'm really interested.
Yeah.
I'm using reverse psychology on James. He doesn't know.
But the thing is, the second season is more mapped out as one kind of giant story. So it's not as kind of 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. It's one kind of continuous narrative.
Oh, maybe I
So,
would be more
Yeah, you might
interested in
enjoy it
that.
a bit more, yeah.
Yes.
But regardless, this is one of the best Star Wars things ever made, and you're wrong if you have a different opinion on that. I'm talking to you specifically, Mason, and
wow.
anybody in the comments who thinks otherwise. All
But
right?
leave a comment.
But leave a comment.
Yeah.
The Clone Wars, the animated series that started in 2008, it's come back big time to finish things off. But
Oh.
did you know the Clone Wars that started in 2003, the animated series, hand-drawn animation with some cel-shading effects, don't get me wrong, there's stuff going on there. That also capped off the Clone Wars. We talked about part 1 in Caravan of Garbage. Again, I just want to emphasize up top because a lot of people seem to get upset by the title of this series. This is a series that I do enjoy. I think it's very good, just to get that out of the way.
All right.
But yeah, this one, Clone Wars Volume 2 or Season 3, whatever you want to call it, it aims to tell a more singular story over the 1 hour. Because the first volume is very much like 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Okay, and they were released at 3 minutes at a time,
Yes.
right? Okay, yep.
Because initially they would be commercials, like toy commercials.
Yeah, right.
So that's why they kind of feel a little bit disjointed. So how did you feel about this 1 hour kind of plus long narrative?
It is less frenetic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I've noticed about the one we watched this week is that...
You gave it a like in the same way that you would have given the previous video a like, because you love giving likes to videos on YouTube. Yeah,
that's
good.
exactly the thing that I noticed. But also, every frame of this is like a hero frame. Every frame of this has like a heroic pose,
Sure.
and then they'll lightning quick switch to another heroic pose.
Yes.
It's like the secondary market for this show was auctioning off the animation cells.
Yes.
Because you know, you always know somebody and they're like, I bought an animation cell from The Simpsons and it's a foot.
Yeah,
whatever.
that's right,
but
absolutely.
every one of these is just like a dramatic lightsaber
Yeah.
swing, or like Mace Windu.
Mace Windu.
Just flying through a city on a some sort of air speeder, like
Yeah, right.
cutting spaceships apart with a lightsaber. It's some spectacular action.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned in the last video, it is this kind of enhanced, exaggerated version of the Jedi and their adventures. The whole idea behind this story is based off the crawl from Revenge of the Sith, because it leads right up to that. Because it mentions how Coruscant is under attack, all the things that have been going on.
Yeah, it does
General,
end- it ends-
General Grievous, etc. and so
Yeah,
forth.
right.
War!
It ends specifically with them again just getting in their spaceships, going to war.
That's right,
So,
exactly. Speaking of, though, it does pick up directly after the end of the last one, where Grievous is in a pitch battle with a bunch of Jedi. Then, of course, we cut to that Anakin Skywalker is being promoted to the rank of Jedi Knight.
Oh yeah, so this
Yeah.
is an element that is not in the movies.
No.
He gets his Jedi Padawan braid cut
Yes,
off.
that's right.
In this animated
Yeah.
series.
So I've got
Does
a-
that happen again in the new Clone Wars?
I think they skip over that.
Oh my
Actually,
goodness!
yeah, like
that's
that-
a pivotal moment.
Yeah, the new Clone Wars, I believe, starts with him his cool floppy mullet hair, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's where the movie starts. But what I think they really nail about the character of Anakin Skywalker in this is he sucks. Like, I think the Clone Wars, the newer one, does a really good job of humanizing him and
Making
making
him more charismatic,
and interesting
fun.
and thoughtful, and
Yeah.
you know, he seems like a nice person. But in this, they really again capture that episode 2 scowl, and they kind of move away from that after he does get promoted. But even when they summon him to be promoted, he's just like, Obi-Wan, you're not my real dad. What'd you even call me for? And he's like, you're being promoted, you dumbass. Well, that's
It's like,
why we called you.
Well, I refuse to apologize. You know, one thing they did move away from the previous volume of this is the clone trooper action. There's very little.
There is that sequence where you see a clone trooper take out a bunch of battle droids, and he keeps picking up weapons and he's throwing weapons.
Yeah, right,
Remember the
right.
bit that I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
for sure, uh-huh.
But yeah, I think there is more of a focus on the Jedi characters. in
Characters
this.
with faces.
Characters with faces.
Faces
the
and
like.
motivations
Yes.
and names.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being a bunch of dudes in white armor with
Yeah.
slightly different coloured shoulders.
And that's something they definitely elaborate on more to good effect in the other series. But what I also thought is interesting about this Anakin Skywalker character is
Besides that he sucks.
Well, that's what I was going to say. He does suck. Like, he's a bad dude, and they don't really make that much of an attempt to kind of redeem him.
But he's obviously a bad dude.
Do you remember
what are they doing?
Do you remember the bit when... What are they doing? Do you remember the bit when Padme sneaks up on him and he holds a lightsaber to her throat? Do you remember the bit when he turns up and there's that giant monster and he just kills it? But again, that's the Star Wars universe. You just kill the things that you see. Yeah. And he's eating raw bugs at one point. Remember that?
Yeah, and he's
like a monster.
There's some weird characterizations of this. Because I guess he grew up on Tatooine and food was scarce. So he's like, well, I better eat some bugs.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like Obi-Wan being like, what are you doing, Anakin? And there's a lot of, don't eat bugs. Well, provide him with some food then, Obi-Wan.
I feel like Obi-Wan promoted him, recommended it at least, just to get rid of him. And then they're like, guess what? You're a pair. And he's like, fuck.
But I work alone. You absolutely do not. That's not how the Jedi work. It's never how it's worked. There's always been a Padawan system. You know that, Obi-Wan. But you're right. He's like, don't kill that monster, Anakin. Oh, you've made a big mistake killing that monster, Anakin.
But getting back to the Jedi trial and the cutting off of the rat tail.
Yeah, right.
Going into this, they didn't know what that looked like. They were given the information that he has to go from this to this. So they're like, okay, so we got to show the Jedi trials. And they don't actually end up showing it in full because they didn't really know what that was supposed to be.
So wait, is this was released prior to Revenge
like a
of the
few
Sith?
months prior.
Like and they hadn't seen Revenge of the Sith prior to that.
I'm assuming they had access to all the information about it because
they had the visual dictionary.
But also if you look at like the video game of Revenge of the Sith, which would have been made months in advance.
Yeah.
All the information is in that game. So I think it was out there. There was a bit of a looser grip on it in 2005.
Okay, that explains all the QuickTime events in this animated series.
Absolutely, it does, yeah. But I like the way that the Jedi trial in this is handled like a surprise birthday. Like you go in and they're like, surprise! Your brain's cut off. Even though, of course, in this, his real trial is fighting a big monster and going into a cave and having a scary vision and then ignoring it. So that's the real trial, isn't it?
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, many famous Jedi have done that, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I do find it interesting, though, the element of the story that he goes and he becomes the savior of this native population.
They're very much akin to like a Native American population, but they also sound Italian. Have you noticed?
I didn't notice that.
They're all like, manja, manja. Eat of them bugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, all I'm saying is their alien language sounds an awful lot like...
And I guess also, like Italians, they start off lithe and thin and cool, and then they turn into horrible monsters from all the spaghetti that they
That's
eat.
exactly correct, yes.
Yeah. I think that element of the story was the most interesting to me. I mean, they mostly kind of sideline Obi-Wan for the Anakin stuff. But again, I'm not really that invested in him because I don't like him.
Right, yes.
Like, at all.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that the way he resolves that situation is he takes a dark turn and he crushes that guy from the Techno Union. Speaking of, have you seen that Techno Union video?
Oh.
We'll put in a clip.
Okay then.
Ready to our call for your support. The Techno Union.
But yeah, I think the storyline to me, which is the most interesting, no, it's not the 3 seconds of the Wookiee planet that we get in this.
Sure.
It's the Coruscant invasion and the idea that the Emperor, well, he's not the Emperor at this point, that Palpatine is manipulating this whole situation to get himself captured, to manipulate Anakin Skywalker and the Republic and whatever, to give himself more powers. And I thought that was something that maybe it would have been good to see more of that in the movie, but I think this did a really good job of handling that and also highlighting some Jedi which aren't your main people. I mean, you've got your Mace Windu and your Yoda and that, but Shakti again plays a huge role in this. Again, who we mentioned this last video, has multiple deaths across multiple mediums. I think you called her the Kenny of the universe, I think, in the last video. It also does like souped up ability stuff like Yoda dragging down starships and pushing them away and things like that. Something that they sort of do in the movies. Well, they had Rey kind of grab a starship in the recent one, but that's more of a kind of a video game kind of thing.
It kind of is,
yeah.
There's even a sequence in this one that's very much kind of platformy, where you see Anakin Skywalker kind of like
do a series of flips.
A series of flips and lightsaber swipes kind of up a building. And again, this particular Clone Wars universe does feel like it's been built for people with not a particularly long attention span.
Us.
Yes.
I really enjoy when Grievous gets into Palpatine's office and he wrecks all the troopers and the guards.
Yeah, right.
Because they're not force powered.
I'm sort of surprised that it wasn't Ian McDiarmid doing the voice of
Palpatine.
Because he's bang up for this sort of stuff.
Absolutely he is. Well, Sam Witwer does it now if Ian McDiarmid doesn't come back to do it.
Oh, I
Sam
see,
Witwer,
right.
who of course turns up in multiple Star Wars things, including Force Unleashed. But I also really enjoyed the moment where Shakti, as they're running from Grievous, she just quietly ties his cape to a train. And then he just zooms off.
There's some weird slapstick in this version. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there was more than in the previous volume. There's a moment where C-3PO reveals his shiny new paint job.
With
and it's
sexy
With
music.
sexy saxophone music. Oh, I'm sorry, jizz music, as they call it in the Star Wars universe.
Which is much sexier for obvious reasons.
That's right.
There's even the moment where there's a hammerhead. I think they're called Ithorians. How he blasts the room that Grievous is in, the corridor, to kind of get rid of him because they've got multiple bloody throats or whatever. That's why they're able to do it. And Palpatine's like, I heard. I'm like, that's a decent joke in this. There's like a little moment of levity. Yeah. Okay. Now I just want to point out that I saw the thousands of comments in the last video where I said, why don't you just crush General Grievous?
Oh,
Like a
okay, you
tin
can't do
can.
that? Okay.
They do-
Were there any comments about how I constantly call him Mace Window?
Because
Because I'm going to lean into it, if I'm honest with you. Clearly it's some sort of speech impediment, and I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah.
That's what he was killed from. All Jedi are named after the
thing that befall them.
the portal that they were hurled from to their death. So he's Mace Window.
Yeah, exactly. Emperor thrown down a Death Star shaft.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, I just want to acknowledge that I did see those comments, and it does offer an explanation in this, and I know it has in other mediums, that he uses tactics of intimidation and speed to kind of throw the Jedi off so they can't ever get a really good line of sight on him, and they can't kind of get their composure to crush him.
I see.
And the reason Mace Windu is now I'm doing it! And the reason Mace Windu is able to do it is because he's calm and he's not
see,
intimidated.
right.
So he can just do it. But at the same time,
His wallet says very focused Force user on it.
But at the same time, though, I just think that's total bullshit. And you could just crush him. And the way that people kind of justify it is also...
You can hit him with a train.
You can hit him
probably.
with a train. Like, it's a dark side move if you crush somebody.
Yeah, it's poor form.
Yeah, but and the reason Mace Windu can do it is because he kind of dabbles with the dark side. Like, his style of fighting is kind of very aggressive, which is unusual for a Jedi, but he's managed to walk that line without going over, right?
He learned Teräs Kasai at Cobra Kai.
That's right, exactly. But at the same time, I think if you had a room full of Jedi, you could easily just do enough force pushes and force crushes
Yeah, right.
to even just bring the corridor around him and smush him in it. But again, people saying that it's a dark side power. Yoda decapitates 2 clone troopers in Revenge of the Sith, and he's the best one. Like, he's the best one, and he does it. And look, I know that
He
that's...
feels bad about it afterwards.
Yeah, I know
maybe.
he does, but it's also like, that's for defense. Well, so's this.
Yeah, right.
Because he's trying to kill you, you should be able to kill him. Do you know how General Grievous dies? Obi-Wan shoots him with a gun. Is that not a dark side ability?
Not even a Star Wars blaster, just a regular gun.
regular old
He bought
gun.
it at Walmart.
All I'm saying is I acknowledge the explanation for why it's believed that you cannot kill him that way, but it doesn't make any sense.
The real reason...
I stand by it.
The real reason is... He still needed to be alive in 3,
Yes.
and they hadn't filled any of the backstory. And they're just like, just have him be in a few episodes of this.
Yeah.
It's fine.
That being said, I think he's really well used in this.
Yeah.
I think he's great. I think he's fun.
You see a little bit of his training
Yeah.
from Counter Dooku.
Counter Dooku, that's right, yeah. I also just want to mention that shoots him with a gun. What's the difference? Is what I'm saying, Mason.
Yes.
There's no difference.
There's no difference,
Is
it's
that
true.
fine, is it? You can shoot someone with a gun? That's okay? Obi-Wan cuts a man's arm off in a bar. That's fine, is it? That's fine. He leaves a man in a volcano. That's fine, is it?
They're all
But you
fine.
can't crush a droid that's trying to kill you? What's going on? Am I wrong?
Oh, well, here's the thing.
Am I yelling too much for this?
You're yelling a bit, and also Obi-Wan owes Grievous some money, so that's why he doesn't do it.
Credits.
Yeah,
Republic credits.
that's right.
Anyway, I'm done with that. But look, a lot of people also say that thanks a lot Disney for making this not canon anymore.
It's not even on Disney Plus.
It's not even on Disney Plus. Yeah, you've ruined the legacy, etc. and so forth. Look, Disney have done a lot of things that I don't agree with about Star Wars, and some things that I like. I won't get into it. But the thing is,
And some non-Star Wars things you do agree with.
that's right.
Song of the South.
Oh God. But just to be clear, I do not agree with Song of the South.
You can just edit this out.
I won't though.
Okay, good.
I'll at least leave it in the extended audio edition.
All right.
But the thing is, George Lucas was the one that made this non-canon by introducing the next series.
Oh, yeah, right.
So again, I think the idea was that this was a promotional tool, and then he later wanted to flesh it out with a full-on series.
Yeah, right.
I think that was the idea behind it.
Having not seen, I've only seen selected episodes of the new Clone Wars. Besides the characterization of Anakin, Is it a massive
It's
departure?
wildly different.
Yeah, okay, right.
Absolutely. The one thing in particular that's a huge difference is characterization of the clone troopers.
Yeah, right.
You can tell them apart and they take their helmets off and stuff.
Sweet.
You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah,
what it's
nice.
all about. Anyway, I just want to say, it feels good to defend $1 billion organization from another $1 billion organization which bought the first $1 billion organization.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It just feels good to be
Yeah,
on the right
for
side
sure.
of history.
Absolutely.
I just want to also mention, I like to add the section to the video sometimes, which is like, hey, here's some things that we have to mention out of obligation because if I don't, people will yell at us about it or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So General Grievous's cough from episode 3. That's a result of Mace Windu crushing him. You mentioned the sexy C-3PO.
I can't believe you didn't mention sexy C-3PO. Oh, we did. We did though.
We did though.
Cop that.
And the other thing is, yes, I saw Qui-Gon Jinn's giant fist-sized nose. I saw it, Mason. I saw it. The biggest nose ever committed to animation.
Wow.
Yeah.
You say that, but we've also seen the Star Wars Holiday Special with that weird Pink Floyd-esque animation, and Han Solo's got a massive honker in that.
Is it the nose or the face, though?
I don't know.
His whole head looks like a fist. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, it feels really good to come back to this, and also the support of people to be like, you should come back to this and finish, talking about this series, because I genuinely think that this is one of the best Star Wars things that's been created. Has this changed your mind on that?
No. Look, I think it's fine.
Okay, fair enough.
Did you see it at the time, though?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see it at the time, so
Yeah.
maybe that's it.
Okay.
Did you see it in 3-minute snippets?
The first part I did, yes.
Yeah,
But
okay,
then the
right.
second part, I think... The
Okay,
second part
right.
is in 25-minute chunks.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Here's a question, though, for people, and maybe even you, Mason.
Ooh.
There's also a lot of debate, which is better? Is it this version of Clone Wars or the Clone Wars? Not Attack of the Clones, obviously. That doesn't
That's a
compare.
bad one. That's a bad movie.
But which is kind of the better version? I think there's definitely room for both, and I think they aim to do different things. I think this is more frenetic in its action and
Yeah,
fast-paced and stylized, whereas the Clone Wars is able to tell kind of longer arcs and stories and develop characters. So I think there's definitely room for both.
And I think,
Yeah.
if anything, this is probably the perfect one to make non-canon, in the sense that anything now that's non-canon is legends. It's like, well, what? Maybe this is how it happened,
Yeah,
kind of
exactly,
thing.
yeah.
And because it's so,
Maybe Luke Skywalker did fall in love with the spirit of a Jedi who was trapped in a computer on a ship in a book once. That's a story that happened.
incredible.
It definitely happened.
Oh dear.
He's a creep, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Mason.
no, you're not wrong.
That's why I went to that island.
But I was going to say, why else would he be that hermit guy? But this idea, and the idea that the Jedi are doing way more spectacular stuff.
Yeah.
That's the kind of way a tale gets bigger and bigger with the telling. So sure, it's non-canon, but it still exists, and you can just be
Exactly.
like, well, maybe these are the stories that regular folk tell around the campfire.
Maybe this is the story that the kids watch on television. in
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Maybe this
television.
is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world.
And while she may look so sad in hollow photographs,
There we
Mason,
go.
You absolutely love her when Anakin Skywalker holds a lightsaber to her throat.
And grimaces in the way only he can.
That's right. Anyway, this has been Caravan of Garbage. We do this every week. Have you got a suggestion? More arcs of the Clone Wars? I know we have covered one before, in particular Boba Fett infiltrating the Clone Wars Academy
that's right.
situation.
Yeah.
I'd love to do more of those if you do have a story arc, or just any suggestions in general. Also, if you do want to see these early, we have a service called Big Sandwich, which is like our private Patreon. We do movie commentaries, we do bonus podcasts, early videos, including the Caravan of Garbage videos.
That's right.
Fantastic.
It is fantastic.
I agree. And of course, our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows, comes out every Monday and a day early. There! That's enough plugs. That's enough plugs, and goodbye.
Grab that jam, you guys. We'll see you next week.
Just crush him. Just crush him, Mason. It wouldn't even be a problem.
Right?
If he's running at you down a corridor, just crush him.
Yeah. We'll just crush the corridor.
Crush the corridor. Crush his little weird head.
Right?
It's got a squishy brain in there.
Yeah.
Just crush it.
Pull his bloody belt full of lightsabers. It falls down.
Yeah.
He's nude then. He's embarrassed.
Yeah.
Then you crush his head.
Then shoot him with a gun.
Shoot him with a gun.